the embankment there and the embankment there, this is the Haraway. This is a road that is Bronze Age that we know of, so it's over 4,000 years old potentially, this route, and this is here, right here, in the middle of an industrial estate. Good morning everybody and welcome to another video. Today we're going to be journeying across part of the southern England using a book produced in the 1860s and a map also produced in the 1860s. We're going to be asking the question, can you use such implements to traverse an ancient trackway?
And I have typed up some quick notes from the relevant section in the book.
What, so I don't need the book?
No, sorry.
Yeah, but if we read it from the book, it's like we're doing like a Bradshaw's Guide with old Portillo. We're saying, you know, and now the Haraway must become one of these and the main road. No?
No.
Okay, I'm still holding the book.
Okay, yeah, you can hold the book.
Right, so we are tracing the Haraway from Basingstoke to Andover. That's only a small section of it, but it's still around about 18 miles. The Haraway went from Kent right down to Seaton in Devon, reputedly, and again is reputedly up to a sort of Stone Age. Hard to believe and probably a little bit far-fetched, but let's assume at the very worst case it's Bronze Age, which makes it, well, at least 4,000, 3,500, 4,000 years old. So we're starting our main part of this journey in a little village called Oakley, which we've just walked through. Apparently it goes through the centre of the village. You've got the railway in the background, you can probably hear a train just going past. There we go, South West Trains, and we are also going to just knock off a couple of abandoned stations on the way as well, which is what we do for other videos. So this is a combination of ancient trackway and every disused station, ergo Oakley. Right?
Yep.
Onwards, the Haraway. Okay, so we're now adjacent to the railway at Oakley station, what was Oakley station, which was just the other side of there, just over the bridge. So I think we run parallel now for the railway pretty much for the course of the trip today. So this section that we're on just now, immediately next to the railway, was likely obliterated by the railway according to this book. But speaking of which, it's probably now a good time to have a look at Rebecca's typed up bits.
Okay.
So from the start we walked through Oakley Centre, right?
Yes, we did. Continue perhaps by the road, through the village, as far as the church.
Which we did.
Which is what we did.
So we turned right at the church,
Yep.
across the fields.
Then by a path from the church to where Basingstoke Road is crossed by the railway.
Yep, which we did, the two fields.
Yep, a little west of Oakley Station.
Which is like where we are now, right?
Yep, exactly.
So they're 3 ticks. So we've done exactly what it says in the book.
Yes. After being lost for a short distance by Oakley Station and going along a byway for about 2 miles, it becomes a track, mostly hedged, and makes a northwesterly swing to rise past Kingsdown Wood.
Right, so we've got 2 miles on this byway. Is this part of the Haraway? Because I assumed it was. I assumed this is now the Haraway.
I think it...
But that doesn't make that sound like it says,
No.
after being lost from Oakley Station. What does it say after being lost from Oakley Station?
And going along a byway for about 2 miles, it becomes a track.
Right, so we've done the 2 miles from Oakley Station along the byway, which the book described. And now we're on the first bit of the day of proper trackway of the Haraway, the first proper bit. Now, how close we are to the original track, I don't know, but this is the first part where it's actually marked properly as a track and us able to walk on it. So we're just walking up past the section which says...
it becomes a track mostly hedged and makes a northwesterly swing to rise past Kingsdown Wood.
Right, Kingsdown Wood is just over there, so that's fine. So we are now rising up the hill past Kingsdown Wood. What's interesting is I was looking at this section here, which we're just walking up now, thinking, oh, this looks like a good example of what we would assume is an ancient track, where it kind of slightly, you've got embankment either side, but you've also got a nice gentle undulation, which is often what we found with these. But then all of a sudden we just looked here in the hedge, and there's another bit.
An even better shape.
Well, yeah, it looks even, you know, similar. If you come up here, there's also another lovely curved pathway running parallel. So I don't know, maybe back in the Stone Age or Bronze Age they had they thought of up and down. I'm joking.
You never know. A bit like train lines.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So we've just come off of the trackway there and we're just walking along the side of the field which runs alongside the trackway, just so we can take on board some of this lovely view and the sun, because, you know, we're in October now, so, well, we're nearly in November to be fair, aren't we?
It feels a bit like a summer, well, spring actually. It feels spring because
Very
it's
spring
cold
day.
but sunny, so
Yeah.
it's a spring day.
Right, so we're going to head on to along this ridgeway, and we're heading down to the top of Whitchurch, where it crosses a few bits and pieces, Rebecca, in particular.
It does. Right, now passing north of Whitchurch, the course of the Haraway wavers in uncertainty before crossing the parallels of the A34 and the railway line.
Right, so we know the railway. We know this was written obviously back in the 50s, before this guy even had to see his book published, sadly. And we know obviously there was the railway, the Didcot, Newbury and Southampton Railway. So that's the railway he was referring to, which is obviously no longer there. But obviously, as Rebecca said, it wavers there, and it's not sure where the Haraway is. So we're going to see if we can maybe find out where the Haraway was.
Yep.
Obviously, a lot of things like this are now lost to ploughed fields, but who knows?
That's where the Haraway wavers in uncertainty before crossing the parallels of the A34 and railway line. We've just done the old A34, and we're coming up to the railway line.
Right, so the railway line is the Didcot, Newbury and Southampton Railway, and we've told that story a few times, so do check out our other videos about the actual railway. Yep, one of the two. So one thing we haven't discussed is the history of the Haraway, which we're obviously trying to find the tracks of, shall we say, is the history of it. So obviously we're not historians, and we do make that point all the time. We do a little bit of research and we try and piece bits together, but obviously we ask you guys to comment below and help us out, because we don't always have the time to spend days researching. But anyway, so the Haraway, confirmed to be at least 600 BC, which doesn't sound very old in the context of an ancient pathway, but obviously reputed to go back much further in terms of some of the artefacts found along its route. But obviously nothing hugely confirmed. A little bit of carbon dating, I think, has confirmed it to be a little bit older. It does pick up on its eastern part, the Pilgrim's Way. Now the Pilgrim's Way, I think, is a lot more recent, and I think, again, this is where, please correct me, it has everything to do with Thomas Becket, Canterbury, and his pilgrimage routes, and all of it up until Farnham then goes down to Winchester, which is why Winchester apparently became as prominent as it did, because of Thomas Becket. I think thereafter a lot of his records were destroyed by either Henry the 7th or 8th or 6th or something. Again, very dirty history. Henry. Yeah, and that's where we are today, but we're not on the Pilgrim's Way because that veered off at Fareham, which is other side of Basingstoke,
Okay.
and goes down to Winchester. Maybe one day we'll do that route, but I'm not massively interested in pilgrimage and such. Anyway, there is the sketchy history of the Haraway. So the route we're on now, which is the, let's say, the upper section, Basingstoke through to Andover, therefore carries on going down, and you can trace a lot of it back down to Seaton in Devon by all accounts. Okay, so we've just walked the best part of God knows how many miles. Well, it's brilliant. From Home Farm where we last talked.
Home Farm?
Was it Home Farm?
No.
Down Farm.
Down Farm.
Down Farm. Everywhere's Home Farm. Isn't it? Down Farm, down the road, under the railway bridge where it said on your sheet there was a fold.
Yes, there's a fold represented by an old road, may be represented by a fold in the ground, which is lost as it comes to the track, because it was obviously obliterated when the railway track was made.
Yeah. Oh, train. Right, so that tells you we're right next to the railway. So we went under the bridge. We didn't film anything there because there was very little there that we could see, especially the fold in the road. What he was talking about, I have no clue. Anyway, we're now on the south side of the railway, and I think we're veered off of, I think the road that goes down this valley over there, that is the route of the old Haraway, because if you think about it, they had a river to get through now, and he mentions this here.
He does.
So you take the lowest point down to that river and the subsequent ford. We're now going up a pathway alongside the railway because we want to see if we can see any remnants of an old Hurstbourne station. So where are any bits from there?
We next pick up the Haraway on the south side of the railway. There's a metalled road bridging the Hurstbourne stream over firm gravel at Chapmansford Farm, which implies there may have been an ancient ford here used by pedlars travelling the old road.
Okay. Right, you join us on the west side of Andover on Portway Industrial Estate. So Portway Industrial Estate is quite a significant size, and we're back on Haraway. We've walked all the way from, oh goodness me, Hurstbourne, or St Marybourne really, isn't it? From Hurstbourne Station. It's a road. There's nothing other than a road. It's completely obliterated. When it comes into the east side of Andover, there is now Walworth Industrial Estate, Pilgrim's Way, Riverway, housing estates, completely obliterated it. But it didn't used to be like that. Obviously before they were built, it was Watery Lane, and there's a bit on here which describes Watery Lane.
As it comes across the north-south Roman road and heads west on the Haraway, becomes a lane between high ragged hedges. This is not a green land underfoot, for it has a covering of cinders. It has been much used by gypsies as a camping place.
So they're describing Watery Lane. Watery Lane, so Watery Lane, as I say, went through Pilgrim's Way and Riverway, through the industrial estate, and came out where there's like a quick fit now. So basically in that northern centre of Andover, and across what would have been the beds of the River Anton, where there was a hoard found, a Bronze Age hoard.
In the watercress beds in 1913.
1913. So that shows you that it was used in Bronze Age. This trackway was used as Bronze Age.
Yep.
Some claims as old as the Stone Age, but obviously that's a bit poetic licence. Anyway, so after that point there's not a lot to show you because it's just a town centre which has been completely obliterated, any evidence of it whatsoever. You can then get back on what is Haraway the road, and therefore the school, Haraway, goes in a straight line and basically comes out on this industrial estate. This is where we are now, and this is what fascinates me about old routes, whether it's a railway embankment or an old road. Right here is the embankment there and the embankment there. This is the Haraway. This is a road that is Bronze Age that we know of, so it's over 4,000 years old potentially, this route, and this is here, right here in the middle of an industrial estate. Who knows this is here, but yet you've got industrial unit. I love the fact that when they built this they did preserve this way. Whether they knew about it or not, I guess they did, but they preserved this because it should be preserved. I don't think there's any kind of historical order on it or whatsoever, but this should be looked after because it's beautiful. It's older than a Roman road. It's older than Saxon times. A lot of hill forts around here. This predates them.
Yep.
Fascinating. Anyway, right, I've waffled a lot. We're absolutely shattered. We're not a million miles from home now, so we're going to head back. It's been a long day. The sun's just about to go down.
But the weather's been lovely
today.
The
weather's been beautiful.
It's definitely like a spring day today.
Yeah.
Cool but dry and sunny. Lovely.
Right. like, subscribe. I've got the right side.
Are you sure?
Yeah. Comment with questions and stuff. We're not historians, so ask questions or tell us stuff, because we don't mind that at all. We're not offended by
we
you.
love to learn about stuff that we've already got seen and what we've
Exactly,
done.
yeah, and people
It's
do that all
always
the time, so yeah. Right, goodbye everybody.